So with all the discussion about SHTF events happening around the world and how we'll survive after an SHTF event, I thought it'd be a good time to talk about different lightweight items that can easily be bartered in a post-SHTF environment. So stick around for the rest of the video. We're going to talk about 12 different barter items that should still get you somewhere after an SHTF event. Hey everybody, it's Magic Prepper, and today we're going to talk about post-SHTF barter items, or items that you can trade for easily after an SHTF event. And these items are specifically also lightweight and have multi-uses to them to make sure that they're worth carrying around. We all talk about things very often in the sense of post-SHTF trade, because we all know that digital currency and fiat cash and everything else that we're used to in our current society will most likely be valueless. So how do you supplement the idea of trade or barter with other people after an SHTF collapse? Well, you have to have items that are going to be in high demand, but you also want to have items that are easy to carry on you and have multiple uses. So things like gold and silver are worth a lot of money right now, but they also weigh a lot. If every ounce of silver is right now only worth somewhere in the $20 range, think about how many ounces of silver you have to carry with you in order to have something valuable for trade versus something that might be more valuable in silver in a post-SHTF environment. So just because we're talking about SHTF events and just because we're talking about bartering after a collapse of some sort, if you're preparing for SHTF and you're worried about how you're going to survive economically after an SHTF event, hit the subscribe button below so that way we can keep these conversations rolling, and I'll try my best to give you guys as much advice as I can, but I also want to get your advice down in the comments below. So let me know if I've missed anything in this video, and let me know if there's any other barter items that you think are worth talking about here. Of course, there's some big ones we all discuss relatively often, but these are some ones that I wanted you to at least be aware of and have some ideas about that can also help you in any kind of a post-SHTF environment, even if you don't use them for barter. And they're easy to store in a bug out bag or something like that, so that if you find yourself on foot, you're not going to sacrifice weight just to have something you think you might be able to trade for value down the road that might not bring you any kind of help or sustenance or anything like that until you're able to trade it for something more valuable for yourself at the time. So first things first, like I said, there's 12 different items here, lightweight, multi-function, easy to acquire items, and most of the items here I recently just bought right at my local grocery store, and they're very inexpensive. This cost me literally nothing to put together. So it's things that you can work on right now, even if you're on a budget that you might not have a lot of available funds for. You can still start stockpiling little bits of this and little bits of that just to kind of get started, okay? So really quickly, I lost a couple items here due to my extremely windy voice, we're gonna assume, okay? So first and foremost, we'll just go down the line from my right to left, and that way we can just talk about each item, what it does, and why you should have it for trade value as well as other purposes. So first things first, lip balm or lip chapstick or something like that, right? So lip balm is extremely useful because first off, of course, your lips are going to be dry if you're exposed to the environments. It's very lightweight, easy to put a stick of it in your pocket or in a pouch somewhere. And what's great about lip balm is that it's not only good for keeping your mouth moisturized and your lips, protected from the sun, but it's also excellent to use for lubrication when it comes to things like firearms. And you can use it for treating wounds in the sense of trying to get scabs to heal better and more evenly. So it's actually a very good thing to have, and you can easily use it for multiple different things. And then in a post-SHTF environment, when you come across that person with very chapped lips, imagine how valuable this is going to be to that person. Now, of course, you're going to have the other things we just talked about to mention when it comes to this chapstick, such as, hey, well, if you're out of lubrication for your firearms, I do have some chapstick, which can definitely help you out in a pinch. So this is something extremely lightweight. This only cost me $2 for 2 sticks, and you can carry it and use it when need be. Just remember, it also has UV protection in it, so what's nice about that is you can use it in other places on your body besides just your lips in case you find yourself having to deal with sun exposure and other things like that. So just keep that in mind. Chapstick is an easy way to go. So first one's down for the count apparently. Now let's move on. So the next thing that I chose was just bar soap, small bars of soap because you're going to have to deal with your hygiene, you're going to have to stay clean, you're going to want to make sure that you don't ruin everybody's day the second they smell you, and it's just good for any other practice revolving around washing your hands, and it's also still soap, so you can use it to wash other things besides your body parts if need be. So it's definitely a valuable thing to have. And what's great about bars of soap rather than anything liquid is that it stores more easily, especially if you keep it in some kind of a dry container, something that can't get wet, or if you vacuum seal it to make sure that it's not exposed to the environment. You can easily trade soap because people will need to be clean and people will want to keep up in their hygiene, and soap will become a hot commodity eventually. It's not the easiest thing to make if you don't have all the ingredients, so having extra bars is definitely important. You will use them if you need them, but you can trade them as well. And what's nice about bar soap, very similar to other types of items out on the barter trade system, is that you can actually chop it down if you want. You can chop it into smaller pieces, barter however you feel the value of what you're getting is worth. Instead of having to give over an entire bar of soap, you can chop it up and use pieces of soap as its own form of, I guess, miniature currency. So keep that in mind. Bar soap is very good, especially compared to anything liquid because of its ability to be packed away, carried more easily, and then you can cut it down if you need to, okay? Something to consider, all right? Bar soap down. Next on the list is going to be seeds. Now, these are not heirloom seeds. These are your very inexpensive, basic store-bought seeds. But what's nice about these is that they still will yield a product, and they're very inexpensive. At least when I bought them, they were. These were 20 cents a pouch. So for 20 cents right now, you could be trading someone the idea of them being able to feed themselves or their family down the road a few months. And it's definitely something that people are going to want to come after. Seeds are going to be in high demand if everybody suddenly has to start growing their own survival garden, their own calories. And the other thing you have to consider is that this weighs nothing. These weigh absolutely nothing, and you can easily stash them in a bag. You can put them in your pocket. You can have them with you wherever you are, and they're good to have in case you find yourself at a location where you're there for a temporary or permanent amount of time. You can start growing if you need to, but you can definitely trade these. These are not heirloom seeds, but they will still get you some value down the road, and they're still extremely inexpensive. So something to consider. Seeds are very valuable no matter what we talk about when it comes to survival. But these store-bought 20-cent packs are easy for trade because they're already basically individually wrapped, and they're very lightweight, and they don't cost a thing. This is 80 cents worth of seeds right here, and tell me if you think it's only going to fetch me 80 cents worth of valuables after an SHTF style collapse. Leave it in the comments below, okay? One thing real quick I just want to mention, if you enjoy the information you're getting here in the video, just make sure you like or share or any of those things that a lot of us like to ask you here on YouTube. But the thing is, I don't know if you guys have realized it lately, but the powers that be have been a little finicky in playing some of their games lately. So if you get my drift, if you want to get this information out there, help me out and share it if you can. It definitely helps the channel, so thank you very much. Okay, so moving on. This is something that a lot of people might not even know exists just because we're not all super old school and everybody's using Tide Pods or eating them or whatever they do these days. But this is a laundry bar. So much like the bar soap, a dry laundry bar is going to be easier to pack, easier to carry with you, and then you can still get your clothes washed using this bar, especially if all you have is a rock and some fresh water flowing and this bar. It'll get your clothes definitely cleaner than they would be if you didn't do anything at all. So this laundry bar is a great thing to have because if people want to get established, maybe they get to a settlement or a camp or something like that, but they want to keep their clothes clean or they want to tidy themselves up after all the journeying and everything else they've had to do, being able to do your laundry is going to be huge. And this bar was like $1, no joke. So I can carry the equivalent of quite a bit of detergent in my bug out bag without having to worry about it spilling out or being harder to trade because, like I said, this is a bar. So I can either trade it as an entire bar or I can cut it down if I need to based on the value of the trade. So this is something worth taking a look at, and it's usually in your laundry section at just about any store. It's just something we all overlook because not many of us are using the old scrub tub method where it's starting to, use machines and detergents and pods and all the other stuff, and nobody's really taking a look at these bars. But for me, when it comes to post-SHTF environment, much easier to transport and use and keep basically non-contaminated by being in the solid form, and you can then chop it down. Something to consider, okay? So, laundry bar. Next on the list, dental floss. Extremely lightweight, Definitely good to keep up on your dental hygiene. We all know that if we're changing our diets and then we're not keeping up on our hygiene in general, your dental goes quick. And we all know that there's links to dental hygiene and cardiac health and everything else. So something to consider is that you can use this dental floss as what it's recommended for, dental floss. But it can also be used for other things like setting snares and things of that nature. You can use it as thread if need be. There's a lot of uses that dental floss has. So that being said, you have something extremely useful in many different ways that also will be valuable. If you come across people that don't have any of their dental hygiene stuff put away, they don't have toothbrushes or floss or anything, even mouthwash or nothing, and you can trade them dental floss, imagine how valuable that can be. But let's say maybe they just need thread, or maybe they need some kind of really primitive lightweight fishing line or snare line or whatever it might be. Dental floss can get you a lot further than nothing at all, and this has a lot of uses to it in the meantime in case you never trade it away. So keep that in mind. Extremely cheap, lightweight, still good to have for yourself, but very tradable as well. Okay, next, seasoning. Seasoning is huge. Seasoning makes food taste so much better, and especially when we're talking about post-SHTF environment. Well, what do you think you're going to be eating? Probably not the best tasting food you've ever had in your life, but salt and pepper can go a huge amount of way when it comes to flavor and everything else that you can do with it. Not to mention the healing properties that salt can bring to the table as well. You know, we all know that salt water can help keep your mouth clean. It can help treat any kind of like canker sores and stuff like that that's in your mouth. Salt water can also be used to treat wounds, and salt itself can at some levels even cauterize wounds depending on the size and depth of that wound. So that being said, having salt is extremely important, not to mention its preservation qualities that it can do for meat and stuff like that to make sure that you can preserve food for longer and everything else related to salt. So not only can you protect yourself from witches, but you can also treat wounds, make your food taste better, and you can preserve meat. So salt's extremely valuable. And yes, you can definitely stack away a lot of salt and pepper using these basic store-bought canisters, but what's also nice is we all know there's ways to acquire lots of these little packets, and what's nice about the packets is that they're individually wrapped, they're ready to go, they have salt and pepper a lot of times, and that's a lot easier to trade. You know, I'll give you 3 packets of this for whatever it is you have, versus saying, all right, hold out your hand, I'm gonna dump some salt in it. Keep that in mind, these packets are easy to acquire at certain places that I don't think we actually have to discuss, but I think we all know where you can find some of these packets of salt and pepper. Just keep that in mind. What you'll want to do, because these are wrapped in paper, is then take a bunch of them, vacuum seal them, and you're good to go. So that's my suggestion when it comes to having tradable seasonings. Instead of having to have little jars or little canisters of everything, you know, try to get these packets, vacuum seal them, and you're good to go. And then you can ration them out more easily instead of having to figure out ways to measure out amounts of seasoning, okay? Just something to keep in mind, and like I said, if you don't trade it, you can still use it for all the different things we just discussed. So, salt, seasoning, excellent to have, okay? Next on the list is coffee. People are addicted to caffeine, myself included, and I need my coffee or I'm gonna be a very grumpy person. Now the thing about coffee that's really nice is that it can change somebody's mood or attitude immediately. So imagine if you haven't had coffee when you drink coffee every single day for months because it's post-SHTF and you don't have any coffee and you're not sure what you're gonna do and you've been freaking out about not drinking your coffee every single morning. Well, somebody comes along and has instant coffee ready to go. All you have to do is put some hot water in a cup, pour this instant coffee in, and you're good to go. That is going to be amazingly valuable for some people, depending on their reliance on caffeine or the almost nostalgic factor of just wanting to drink a hot cup of coffee again. And what's nice is that this instant coffee that is made by Folgers comes in these little packets. Here, I'll just open it up for you real quick. And they're basically individual servings. So you can then trade these for however many you think is worth whatever it is you're getting in return. So these are really nice because they come in little packets, like so, and then you can trade them as if they are individual forms of currency on their own. And what's nice about that is that you can then still have some coffee for yourself. So I think these are a great way to go. They're extremely lightweight. They weigh nothing. I have some of these in my bug out bag because I like coffee, and there's just times where you need the caffeine. Maybe you have to take a night watch shift and you don't want to be the guy who falls asleep first. Those are things you have to consider, and instant coffee can definitely get you there. So it's definitely something that has more than one use, especially if you're me, and very valuable at the end, okay? So keep that in mind. There we go. Okay. Next on the list is going to be, I'm going to combine it actually, nutrition and medication, vitamins and medications. Extremely important to have in any kind of post-SHTF environment. And people are going to be wanting more and more of them because some people are more sickly, or some people are going to find out once they're exposed to the elements that they aren't as healthy as they thought they were, and they have to suddenly deal with the fact that they have allergies or who knows what else because they never go out of their house. So allergy medicine's huge. Maybe you're out bugging out, who knows what's going on, and you get stung by a bee and you didn't know this, but you're allergic. Have some kind of antihistamine that also can help you go to sleep, let's say, in case things are very chaotic and you need to rest, but you just haven't found your way to close your eyes. And at the same time, keep swelling down and keep your sinuses open in case there's any kind of an issue with your ability to breathe when you're in the middle of some action. Who knows? So make sure you have that. Things like amoxicillin are going to be extremely important because you want to be able to treat any kind of infection. And of course, there's different types of infections related to different types of antibiotics. So make sure you know what treats what. But having things like amoxicillin or other antibiotics is going to be extremely valuable because most people don't have these things stashed away. So if you have some and somebody has a cut that's infected, you're going to be a lifesaver and they're going to definitely need that medication. So keep that in mind. And vitamins, you're going to have to supplement your bad diet, basically, that we're all going to experience if there's an SHTF situation. So if your diet suddenly becomes crap, then you want to make sure you have vitamins to help supplement the nutrients that you're missing out on. So a multivitamin is a good way to go just because it has a little bit of everything and it keeps things compact instead of having to have 25 different types of vitamins. You get a multi, and if people are desperate and they're malnourished and they need sustenance, having vitamins is going to be a great trade tool, okay? So it helps you, but it can help someone else and get you something in return. Same thing goes for stomach relief. Make sure you have this no matter what, even if it's not for bartering, because your stomach is going to go to crap once you start eating a bunch of canned stuff or a bunch of freeze-dried stuff or anything that you're just not used to eating on a regular basis. The second you start changing your diet, you're going to have a transition period where things don't go well for your stomach. So make sure you have ways of treating that. And plus, we all know, we've heard the stories of the old frontiersmen who passed away from dysentery. So if you find yourself in a bug out or a wilderness environment suddenly and you drink water and it's bad, you're gonna need some way of helping your stomach out, or you could actually find yourself on the wrong end of history. So stomach treatment is huge, and think about how valuable this will be if someone comes upon you that hasn't been able to keep anything down for days and you have the solution. So keep that in mind. And ibuprofen, always a good treatment for pain, inflammation, fever, things that are definitely going to be happening to people during an SHTF event. So have some kind of a pain reliever and a fever reducer, and you can definitely be the difference. Now, for any of this stuff, it's very easy to store away. It weighs nothing, and then you just carry a variety with you. So I actually use some of these match little containers here that are made to keep your matches dry in a wet environment, but they also keep anything else you put inside dry. So I actually keep a variety of different medications inside these for my bug out bags in order to have variety and make sure that they're well protected and kept away from moisture. So as you can see right here, I have a variety, or I have zero variety in this one. This is all just antibiotics, but I have a few of these in my bag, and each one has a different set of medications or vitamins or something like that in it, and that way I can go through and trade if I need to based on whatever I have available or whatever it is they're looking for, or I can treat myself or treat somebody in my party for whatever ailment they might have. So these are good, and I actually like using these matchstick containers in order to store all those different medications and vitamins in. So should have grabbed the one with more variety, but you get the idea. Okay, moving on. Ways to make fire are a great thing to be able to trade and have on you. Of course, you want to be able to make fire. Fire can save your life in a million different ways, and we all know that. However, will everyone have the best way to make fire? Well, you might have ferro rods, you might have magnesium, and you might have lighters. Might even have some matches, maybe the stormproof ones. All those are great things for trade. And matches are a good thing for trade because you could do it by the match if need be, if you really want to get stingy. So I like the idea of mini Bic lighters though, because they're small, and for each 2 of these, it's almost like the size of 1 full size. Not quite the same equation, but that's how I kind of look at it. The smaller you can break things down, the more ability you have for trade. You know, you don't want to give someone an entire full size big lighter if what you're getting is only worth a mini. So minis are easy to carry, and let's say you have 2 minis and somebody wants to trade you for a lighter, you're not down your lighter in order to get what you needed because you still have 1 left, versus if you only had the full size, now you are either going to be out that lighter or you're not going to get the thing you really needed. So mini Bics are a great thing to have. This way of starting fire using a lighter is the easiest thing people can do, especially those who aren't very attuned to using ferro rods and things like that. And as you'll see in a video I will be putting out here shortly, I'm apparently not good with ferro rods either. Maybe it's the 60-mile-per-hour wind gust I was dealing with, but who knows? So either way, mini Bics are my way to go, and they're easy to use, they're easy to carry in your pocket, easy to carry in your bag, they weigh nothing, and they are very, very valuable post SHTF. So keep that in mind. These aren't very expensive. I don't even really know how much this one cost. I want to say it was like $3. So something to keep in mind, okay? Moving on. Chewing tobacco. Chewing tobacco, or tobacco of any kind really, is going to be somewhat valuable in any SHTF environment, especially for people who need their tobacco. Now here's something interesting. I don't smoke, I don't chew. I am not a tobacco user, but I understand the value in things like tobacco for those who use it and crave it. You know, nicotine addiction is a real thing, and regardless of whether or not you're worried about the health concerns or not, if somebody wants to smoke or wants to chew, they're gonna be considering this bag of chew to be a lot more valuable than what I think of it as. So having stuff like this, even if you don't use it, doesn't necessarily make it valueless. It can be used as a trade tool, and I think tobacco, especially what it does for people's stress levels and their endorphins, can definitely be extremely valuable in a barter situation. Not to mention when you get raw cut chewing tobacco like this and it comes in these nice foil pouches, they're easy to carry, they're easy to store, they're not gonna break down the same way as a pack of cigarettes might, but they also still provide the value of being a tobacco product for somebody who's looking for that in a post-SHTF environment where stress levels are high, and some people have different ways of coping with stress, and for some people that's tobacco. So, just saying, not a bad thing to have as a barter item. Keep that in mind, okay? All right, next on the list is going to be alcohol, okay? So alcohol is extremely useful in any survival situation. It can do a lot of things for you. It can clean wounds, it can help you get a fire started, it can help you do a lot of things, including de-stressing. It can help you enjoy your night or get a little bit more rest a little more easily. There's a lot of things alcohol can do for you. And honestly, it's going to be very sought after in any SHTF environment, because just like nicotine, some people need alcohol as a way to cope with stress, and they use it as a coping mechanism. And in a post-SHTF environment, that value on this alcohol will be much higher than it is right now, because it will most likely, if we're talking long-term SHTF, not be being mass-produced anymore and not be so easily or widely available. So keeping that in mind, these small bottles, I literally paid 99 cents each for them, okay? So each bottle gives you enough to have a pretty solid drink, but at the same time, it only cost me $1 to have a couple of little bottles in my bag that can either clean a wound, or make me feel better for a night, whatever it might be, but has multiple uses, okay? So alcohol has a lot of properties that are useful. The most useful, in my opinion, for any survival situation is the ability to clean wounds and clean dressings and make sure that things don't get infected. However, drinking it can be a good time too, and I'm not gonna lie about that. But for the idea of barter, having it with you is useful, and trading it's going to be extremely valuable. And you know, and I know, that if you run into the right people, these are going to be worth a lot more than some of the other stuff that we as preppers might actually feel is very valuable. So keep that in mind, because you want the best return on investment when it comes to whatever it is you're bartering, and alcohol can provide a huge return on investment. Not to mention, these are very lightweight, and they're easy to carry. They're plastic bottles, so they're not gonna break or anything like that in your bag, and you can then ration them out better than you can if you just carried one big bottle of alcohol, because then you're gonna have to find containers for it, then you're gonna have to decide how much of a pour is gonna be worth whatever it is you're trading for, whereas these are a little bit easier to talk about. I'll give you 2 of these for 1 of those, or 1 of those for 3 of those, whatever it might be. So, alcohol's a good way to go. Do yourself a favor. Pick some vodka, because it's better for the idea of cleaning wounds and stuff, and then get something that you actually drink, like bourbon, if you're me, because if you do want to drink it, you don't want to drink something that you don't like drinking, which would be vodka for me. So I have bourbon and vodka because they can both do a little bit more. And if I have to trade them, you know I'm gonna start with the vodka. That's just me. All right. Anyhow, the last thing on this list of 12 different items that are good for barter in a post-SHTF environment that are lightweight, have multi-uses, and are extremely affordable is going to be drink powder, specifically the kind that comes in individual packets. So, like so. All right, there we go. So, what's nice about drink powder like this one, which is just a store brand, the cheapest one I could find. I think it was about, honestly, $3, which is a little steep for, you know, what is this? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So 9 drink packets for $3. Not the best return on investment, most likely. However, in an SHTF environment, having a flavored drink will go a really long way, and people will be willing to trade for something like this instead of having to drink whatever muck water they've been living off of, or whatever drinks they've been trying to make work for themselves for the last 3 or 4 weeks. If you give them the option of drinking something that tastes like fruit punch, that can go a long ways. Not to mention for yourself, if you've ever been on a long hike or if you've ever done any kind of backpacking, you'll know that drinking out of streams and ponds, even if you filter it, still has an interesting taste to it. So by putting powder in it that makes it taste good, makes it taste like something familiar, such as fruit punch, you just made your water extremely more enjoyable. Not to mention that these packets a lot of times help you get things like vitamin C, help you get electrolytes, and they help you with some sugar, which can definitely help you keep going in the sense of a little more energy. So extremely valuable, apparently not that one. And what's great is that they're easy to trade, just like the coffee packets. These are small, lightweight, easy to hand off, and you can then ration them out for whatever value you believe they have. So here's one for your 2 and one for your 3, and I'm always gonna get more than my 1 apparently, so that's how this is gonna work. Those are extremely valuable, easy to carry, and good for you to use too. If you treat your water with iodine, you're gonna wanna put this in it because it's gonna taste much better. Not to mention if you're sweating a lot, replacing some of that electrolytes and some of the vitamins you're losing from all that sweat is definitely helpful too. So, all these items are extremely inexpensive, and they're all really lightweight. So you can carry everything you see here in a bug out bag. Yeah, maybe you can't carry 20 of these if you're gonna carry all this, but you can carry a couple, and you can carry a couple of the coffees and a pack of seeds, and once you add everything up, it's really not gonna be that much weight or even take up that much space. But it's stuff that you can use at some point in time, and if you don't, you can easily barter it away. And this is just something I wanted to review and kind of give you guys some ideas about some of the other things that you can invest in that might actually return on that investment after a collapse of some kind. And I know we're all preparing. I know we're all in high gear right now because things are escalating and we're getting closer and closer to November. So make sure you're doing the best you can with what you have. And this is just something that if you don't have a lot to spend, you don't have a lot of expendable income because of everything else that's going on in the world, getting into something really small on your budget and really financially friendly can get you started with this kind of stuff and then not really break the bank. So keep that in mind because it's definitely something worth investing in and then something that can be used for you, your family, or for trade down the road. So if you have anything else you want to add to this list, leave it in the comments below. There's a couple things I know you're going to add to the list, but I just wanted to make sure that somebody else got to say it instead of me. And I think you all know what I'm talking about. But if there's anything else that I was wrong about here, give me a heads up as well, because I'm always trying to learn from you guys just as much as you might learn from me. So I appreciate all the information that's shared here on this channel. So without anything else to say about the 12 different items that are good for bartering after an SHTF event, that's gonna be it for Magic Prepper.